I never thought I'd jump into a freezing lake to save an animal that could kill me in an instant. But when those amber eyes looked up at me from beneath the water, instinct overrode reason. That morning had started like any other in the 15 years I'd lived here. Thick, fog-blanketed Silver Lake. The temperature just above freezing. I pushed my wooden boat into the water, feeling the familiar wear in my calloused palms. My cabin, the house my father left me, was just a dim light on the shore. It had been 6 years since Sarah died, and for 6 years I'd lived alone, with only the wind, the water, and memories for company. Then I heard a scream tearing through the morning mist. Unlike any sound I'd heard in these woods, wild, agonized, and chilling. I turned sharply, nearly tipping the boat, scanning the distant shoreline. At first, nothing, just water, pine trees, and flickering sunlight. Then I saw it. A reddish-brown creature thrashing at the lake's edge. A powerful body, soaking wet, struggling, then disappearing beneath the surface. My heart stopped. It was an adult bobcat, one of the most dangerous predators in the area, and he was drowning. I didn't think, I acted. Kicked off my boots, threw aside my fishing pole, and dove into the freezing water. It felt like thousands of needles piercing my skin, stealing my breath, but I didn't care. I swam hard, eyes locked on where I'd last seen him. I reached the reeds just as something brushed my arm, wet, motionless fur. For a terrible second, I thought he was gone. But then his paw twitched. He was alive. I pulled him to my chest, carefully avoiding his teeth, and swam back with one arm. I got him into the boat, shaking so hard I could barely hold the oars. I wrapped him in my jacket, whispered, "Stay with me," and motored to shore. At the Northwood Veterinary Clinic, I burst in with him still wrapped in my soaked jacket. "Emergency. He's not breathing right." They worked fast. Oxygen masks, heated blankets, injections. Someone pressed on his ribs rhythmically, and then he coughed, barely, but it was something. Adult male bobcat, the vet said, 3 to 4 years old, hypothermic, near drowning, but he's got a pulse. "Will he make it?" I asked. If you'd found him 5 minutes later, my stomach dropped. 5 minutes. That was all. I sat with him through the night, watching for movement. Hours passed, then his paw twitched. His body shivered. "Come back, buddy," I whispered. That's when I noticed the strip of blue fabric around his neck, not a collar, but torn cloth with a nearly faded embroidered symbol, a line with a circle above it. I looked into his eyes and named him Rusty, not because I planned to keep him, but because every living thing deserves a name. Rusty woke the next morning, wild, terrified. He tried to stand, fangs bared, too weak to attack. I gave him space, spoke softly. He wouldn't eat if I was nearby, only when I left the room. I noticed a deep scar around his neck, not from a collar, but something rougher, tighter, like rope. Someone hadn't just abandoned him. They had tied him, left him to drown. The rage I felt was familiar, helpless, hot. A week passed. Rusty tolerated me, no longer hiding. I went back to where I found him. The trail was muddy, cattails frosted. And there, sunken in reeds, was the wreck of an old aluminum boat split, rusted, burned. A rope hung from one end. In the mud, a strip of torn blue fabric, the same as Rusty's. The rope wasn't tied for docking. It was looped, frayed, like it had bound something. He hadn't fallen in. He'd been tied to a sinking boat and left to die. The strip wasn't a tag, was a placeholder from someone who never planned to return. I stood there a long time, fists clenched. I didn't call the sheriff. I wasn't looking for justice. I was looking for healing. When I got home, Rusty met me at the door. He sniffed the lake mud on my boots, looked up. He knew. Not the details, but enough. Something passed between us, ancient and quiet. "That's not your story anymore," I told him. He followed me inside, curled by the fire, rested his head on my foot. We said nothing. We didn't need to. That night, I lay awake listening to the wind. The house creaked like always, but now there was a new rhythm, soft breathing from the living room. Rusty, I got up at 3 a.m., found him curled tightly on the rug. I whispered, "I don't know what this is, Rusty, but you're making it real hard to pretend I don't care." His ears flicked, but he stayed still. The next day, we walked a trail behind the cabin. He was cautious, curious, sniffing everything. He chased a pine cone just once, then looked at me like asking permission. I laughed for the first time in ages. And for a second, he was just a bobcat in the woods. Then we heard it. A car door, distant, metallic. Rusty dropped flat. His body trembled. 5 minutes before he moved again. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to. Whoever did this to him had scarred more than flesh. Later, a storm hit Dane and violent. Rusty paced by the door, afraid. Thunder cracked. He bolted, hid. Then a loud snap tree fall. I grabbed my flashlight, ran outside. The old pine had collapsed on the trail. Then I heard barking. Rusty was gone. I followed his voice into the trees. He was digging beneath the fallen tree, desperate. My flashlight landed on a trapped raccoon, half crushed but alive. Rusty looked up, and in his eyes, I saw purpose. Not fear, not instinct. Something else. He had gone into the storm not in panic, but to save something weaker. I whispered, "You're more than they tried to make you." That night, the raccoon passed. Rusty stayed beside him the whole time, quiet and present. That's who he was. And I knew then he didn't belong to me. He belonged to something bigger. Healing, trust, unseen work. I called Sarah at Eagle Ridge Wildlife Rescue. We scheduled a handover. I spent that last day with him. We walked the trail again. This time, he didn't flinch at the lake. He looked out, then moved on. When Sarah arrived, Rusty didn't hide. He let her approach, sniffed her hand, then turned to me and sat at my feet like asking, "Are you sure?" I knelt, placed a hand on his chest. "You've got this," I said. "You were made to help someone. You just had to survive first." He jumped into the car, but kept looking back until the dirt road swallowed them whole. The house was quiet again, but not empty. His blanket lay by the fire, his name carved in cedar. His spirit lingered. And in the silence, something new stirred, not grief, hope. Rusty's journey from abandonment to healing reminded me how essential rescue work is. When I pulled him from the lake, I thought I was saving his life. But over those long nights, quiet walks, and slow rebuilds, I realized he was saving mine. Rusty didn't come into my life by accident. He arrived when I needed him most, not to stay, but to remind me that even the most wounded carry light. Healing isn't always loud. It's in the quiet, the trust, the small steps. I still glance toward the fireplace, expecting to see him. Still hear phantom paws. Still find fur in my blanket. And when I walk the trail, I imagine him just ahead, ears perked, tail flicking, showing me the way forward. He didn't need much. Warmth, safety, a reason to keep going. And when he was ready, he left to help someone else heal. Rescuing a bobcat is more than love. It's a second chance for the man, for us. If this story moved you, share it. Somewhere out there, another bobcat is waiting, and maybe his life will change because someone like you decided to care.